Take a quick look at how Sado is able to play kind of the patience game, waiting for that reboot to pick up an extra elimination on the way. Extra 2, actually, not bad at all.
But if you're a team like Growls, right, and you've now gone through 3 lobbies here at Takata, you're trying to even switch up your off spawn. Hold that thought, Ivan. A little bit frisky here with Art Skill, X-Squeeze and Podesai. France trying to stand tall here, but Ivan, Artiste, Ifrozi, they might need this damage, Takata. The way that they're seemingly trying to hunt down the opposition, but a surge base way off in the distance. Gonna let Ifrozi know that they're not actually at peak elevation on this mountain span. Art Skill, Podesai, X-Squeeze catching a little bit of a break here. And the shots fired, that's enough for Ivan's team to decide we're just gonna peel back from this. We don't need to keep eating free surge damage, burning through our limited resources. Reposition and then look to make a different approach, but they are definitely hunting for a fight.
Another trio that could be hunting is Split here, as we can see after they not only got 2 quick eliminations from the reboot, they are still hunting in Storm. Picking up one after another. Vexy, Debule, and Pisovsky almost made it to zone, but there is one trio in their way.
And even with those med-miss grenades, certainly a pretty big investment from some of these teams looking to get these dead side of zone positions, and they're tanking up a lot of early Storm damage. That Storm Sickness could definitely be a threat. Debule, Vexy, and Pixovsky, though, they're still going to continue to just kind of wrap around the hill faces outside of Shiny Shafts. And they're not going to be the only team with the intentions of trying to find a little bit more of an isolated spacing from the rest of the lobby. It's all about keeping a firm grasp on that Storm Surge threshold. And some of these teams that are going to be late stragglers like Axe4, CZB, and Nathan, just got to be real careful, and that's a big part of the reason why we see so many teams also continue to take these dead side options, Takata, is because they know if they just try to white line in, they're going to be picked apart by the lobby.
Yeah, but the issue is, you know, ideally you'd say, you know, actually just take this safer rotate every time, but taking a safe rotate also means you're not going to run into a lot of players, and not running into a lot of players minimizes your chances to get damage, which is heavily needed, especially in this current meta. But, you know, I'm hoping that they've already gotten enough damage, or at least they'll be able to find some once they make it into zone. Lucky Vox Tricks, on the other hand, do not need to worry about that at all with the amount of eliminations they've already secured.
Oh, I guess picking back up then with what I was trying to hint towards earlier on, if you are a team that hasn't had a whole lot of success in these first 3 lobbies, what do you think it's going to take to kind of flip it for 4th and 5th?
You know, we've talked about this previously, and sometimes you got to take those risks, and those risks might be fighting a team like this in zone to be able to get that extra loot you need to increase your odds in the late game. At some point, you're going to not even be playing for that consistency and just playing for that big win, that big game. As Sai hits an initial shot, but takes damage just as quickly as he hit his opponent. And being in Foxy Floodgate zone quite far at this point, already in 5th, you got to start to think, is it really worth it?
Doesn't look like there's any white heals here for Noms, Mystic, or Slowly either. So Mystic trying to see if they can just depend on Siphon, turn things in their favor, but Neo just open season onto Slowly, and Mystic will fall too. A clear trio wipe out of... They just manifested that from thin air, Takata. It did not look like Sai, Neo, and Tino were going to get that active, but they knew they needed a big play. They needed more material for how much time they just invested getting stuck here at Foxy.
Yeah, got the job done. Have the launch pad close by too, but still quite a ways to go. It kind of depends on how many trios are also going to be waiting for them once they get closer to that zone. Kyrie and his trio here right on the edge. Just waiting for the moment to strike.
And Casper and Prism were a couple of members that I think over the course of like the last year and a half, we've seen highlight reel moments out of those two. And even for Kyrie, you know, there've been those pop-up instances, but they're trying to play that consistency game. And as long as they can maintain a good grasp of that surge threshold, that seems to really be the differentiating mark between a lot of these teams in the lobby. A little bit awkward now, though, for Cringe, Raku, and Fito. They're boxed up pretty early on, but they know they're not out of the woods just yet. They're still kind of hoping that they can just stay away from everyone else in their current position. They'll have to move in as the zone pulls away from them. But some good shots means that the team on height aren't going to be able to keep looking at them while they have to take time to heal.
Yeah, it's huge. Now that the team knows that they are behind them, obviously they're not going to trail straight on, so it's a good job to kind of quickly go on that corner, rotate, even potentially run into a lot of other trios you'll see on the minimap. This is a team that just has to play consistent. Now at 129 points, the cutoff to be in qualifying range through consistency was 66 points going into this game, so they're doing a great job to manage that. The Buell, Vexy, Pixovsky, nice little pull, putting them center zone, as now they're just going to reinforce their base and get ready for the opposing teams to roll on it.
And keep an eye on what develops next to Rift Island, though. Wouldn't be surprised to see more teams potentially looking to try and aggress whoever might be up there right now. Nebs, Kiro, and Pink, a little bit more central and privy to the action surrounding them, but Kiro, he definitely got fraggy in the last lobby. That's a big part of the reason why I think Pink specifically wanted him for his team. He just wants a young fragger that can really just let loose when you need them to most.
Ooh, okay. I'm all for this. Playing the island here. It's always going to be fun, especially if zone continues to pull towards them. Now, they do have a good amount of elevation, so they should be able to find some tags, but with kind of the vision from the island, it could be a bit difficult, being only 77 above. We'll see how Savage and his trio holds on. In the meantime, Ifroski, nice little pickup. Are they going to fully commit to it, though, is the question. Yes, they are. Another shot comes through. That's another knock. As now one player is left. The finishes are going to get secured, and Ivan now has more than enough loot to continue on.
Ivan's team just did a really good job executing that last fight, and truly just trapped. Even with the Memmis playing a helping hand there, Ivan, Ifrosi, and Artis know this is a solo that we can just wait for. And even more still for Truly, surge stick damage now beginning to play a part. Could be the same spoiler for Savage's team on top of the island. Sure, you've got a solid position, but there's 16 below. They need to find just one shot to alleviate the pressure from these surge stick damages. But Takata, other teams also continuing to look back at them. And the chances are just slipping away from them because most of the teams have already rotated out.
The good news is a shot was connected. Gonna give them a bit of time to breathe, but the job's not even close to being done yet. Zone's also gonna be pulling further south. Rotating down from Rift Island with the current mobility items is quite difficult. Oni masks allowed you to be a bit safer, but now floating up in the sky kind of opens you up to get tagged, especially if you've just been raining down from the skies for the previous two zones. Eyes might potentially be on you.
They're gonna wait it out though. Savage can be one of the first ones to start making his move off the mountain, just trying to follow the flow of the rest of the lobby and hope that it's the teams at ground level who take the bulk of the lobby focus. Tano, Olatrades, Keon. They've made it into zone, but at what cost? Burning through all of their material just to try and claim a little bit of space here, Takata. And what they really need is still a refresh, but underneath them, Floki, Vox, Tricks. They're starting to make things look a little bit more dicey here for Paul Atreides' trio, and the moment that they try to break through those walls, Paul Atreides has to see two of his teammates immediately get pushed back, and he's trying to do what he can to just delay, but with the surge tick slowly chunking away at him, Takada, he can only outlast it for so long, and Vox gonna apply even more pressure. Vox just wants to get credit for this elimination, but that does put Paul Atreides into the above threshold. Very, very short-lived victory, though.
For 1 second, and now he's back below. Forced to take a shot once again. He can't afford another trade, though. With just 29 HP, no more heals. He can use the misform to survive just 1 tick longer, as he might have to just go for the 1v3. Hits the shot onto the Buell. Can't build now, but focuses on him. Goes down as the rotates are going to come through. Art skill Podesai as well. This could be the match they needed from having 0 points. Now making it to the end game. Reason, Chaff, and Mr. Savage made it off of the island, but with 13 below and now basically no heals to work with, was it worth it in the end?
I think can help but notice Pink Nebs and Kiro, they were ahead of this massive congestion that is the lobby. Reason recognizes so many pre-existing builds here, so many footsteps overhead, but no openings. Pink, Kira, and Nebs just quietly working in the background. They're also elevated up. They're still 84 above the damage threshold. Nebs trying to see if he can secure even more surge damage so they can stay fixated just on their positioning. And Hardy, nearly the end of his run in this lobby, but still left standing, just tagged up along the way. Vano has fallen, though, and Vico and Felixi trying to see if they can secure this double revive. They're going to force Vox to reconsider, just trying to charge through, and they do bring their IGL back up into this one, but they're stuck inside of the low ground. Granted, everybody else might actually be trapped inside with them. Vico and Felixi still looking to play aggressive, despite how low Vano just was, but their Memis grenades have been burned through. Savage Chap, Reason, frontside low, and it's a catastrophe. Reason's only got 5 HP. Chap about half health too. Can he bring Savage back? He's not even gonna get the chance to consider it. He's gonna just have to stay moving towards frontside, takes the medallion, but it's already the end. Nobody healthy enough, and the full team just immediately pounced on.
Akira, Kurama now trying to do what they can as a duo. All they have to do is secure a little bit of points. They've done more than enough in the first matches in terms of consistency, but now forced into a bit of pressure of being only 10 above. They have to find a bit of damage, but with the amount of heals, the amount of mats they have, they don't want to take a risk just yet. It's a full trio down below alongside Nathan, CZB, and Axe Force controlling height. You can see on the left-hand side, Podesai was making a nice little edge side rotate, elevating themselves a little bit as they know they need a big match here. Cringe on low.
And frontside low is starting to get very messy, but Cringe, Raku, Fido, if they can just take down teams as they continue to drop to low, teams that weren't able to actually hold on to those elevated positions, teams that are a little bit more smothered inside of these mid-ground layers, but this is exactly where Nebs, Pink, and Kiro want to be. They're still managing to wrap around, tanking a little bit of the storm even. They've got Memnis grenades, so they know that they can afford to lose just a little bit of HP here. Flixie, Veno, Vico, tagged immediately from overhead. You've got to make sure that those floors stay covered. And CZB, Nathan, Axor, this is exactly what they need to be doing, just applying steady pressure, not giving other teams the opportunity to try and challenge for height.
So many of these teams need a big match, Vico, Veno, Flixie included. They're setting things up, but the issue is they're running low on mats with the aggression we tend to see from this tree. I wouldn't be surprised if a refresh is going to come through shortly. They're looking above, they're looking around them, they're trying to think, where can we find any possible shot? But when you got the best fraggers on EU on your side, Vico hitting shot after shot is going to pick up. Carva is going to pick up another, and now is it going to give them enough match to play safe once again?
That's really all they needed, was just the material refresh over everything, and Vico leading the charge now for his trio. He's just gonna depend that Veno's got things covered for the tarp out, but Kiro, Nebs, Pink, they tanked a lot of storm early on. They played all of their white heals. Flixie can't afford to stay playing towards that backside. All down to Vico and Veno to close this one out. They have 6 eliminations in total, Takada, which is definitely some nice point build-up. But a team that's healthy in the low ground is not going to be Pink Nebs and Kiro. They've lost Nebs. This could not be worse. They invested so much to try and take this frontside low position, and now it's just unfolding right in front of their eyes, but Kiro still trying to get the recovery. If he can find this shot onto Fido, that might open the doorway to bring things back into balance here, but Veno shifting back to overhead, trying to see if he can get these layer swaps. But all he wants to do is play off of Vico. All Kiro has to do is survive. Every single placement counts, but he can't get through the pre-existing build. He's running out of time. He's just gonna go down because of the storm damage itself. Cringe, also a solo, playing from the backside, and he kicks out Peshka, but Takada misform away from the action. CZB, Nathan, and Axe4, surely they've got this.
Gonna let the battle continue as Axe4 now is gonna use that misform to get back on low. Sato gets cracked, but it's not enough to knock him down. Nation with the finish alongside CZB. They have not been contested a single time throughout this endgame on height as Nathan is gonna look to group up. Cringe still trying to heal off. It looks like Vico as well playing the heal off. Three jugs alongside the med mist is what he has in the inventory. Another one on the floor. Isn't gonna be enough. CZB up above. 2 med mist, and he goes down. It looks like Storm Sickness might have gotten the best of Vico, but they needed a big match. They got a big match. 2 more to go. The job is not yet finished.
Looking at those 2 med mist grenades that were still just waiting to be utilized at the very end here. Takada Storm Sickness takes out the best of us. A huge congratulations, though, to CZB and Nathan, as well as Axe4. They held on to the high ground. Nobody really had the opportunity to try and actually overtake, but the heal-off was definitely a little bit dicey there at the end.
Yeah, it looks like CZB might not have been able to actually win the heal off if Storm Sickness didn't come into play, but they played it by the books. They played it safe, maintained height, held height, and ended up securing that victory royale. So we'll see CZB and Nathan Axe4 now in the major finals, but who I want to see is Frankie, Levin, and Minnie. What do you got for us?
Thank you very much, guys. Well, I've got a question, which is, why were people not challenging Axe4, Nathan, CZB for height? It just looked really easy for them, Levin. I'm confused.
Yeah, no, it really did. Look, I wasn't surprised to see them up on height after how last game went. Last game, we saw them challenging for it. And you know, knowing CZB and Nathan over the years of FNCS, I went, okay, look, these guys want a height watch. Next game, they're going to come through and try to take that. And they did. And it was such a strong height hold. Anyone looking up at it, for starters, in some of the earlier zones would have went, yeah, we can't take that now, right? They were double layered in metal, you know, really good connection points. It was just always going to be tough. And then the rest of the lobby was just scrapping below them, right? On some of those higher layers where you'd expect teams to be perched up, waiting to try to take height. They just never had a chance to really look up and even try challenge for it. Nathan, CZB, and Axels did a good job of pressuring Mini. And all in all, a pretty straightforward game from them. Obviously, Vico and them almost made it close with the potential heal off, but Storm Sickness gets them the win.
Yeah, the Storm Sickness ultimately took down Vico. He had so many heals right there at the end, but I think it was a really nice height hold. I think the zones helped as well. I think it was 11th zone that actually pulls back on them. So the fact they invested a lot of those builds early on was really beneficial. If 11th zone pulls really far, then they're going to have to drop down and try and play those mid-ground layers because they've invested all those materials. But because that zone and then ultimately the 12th zone pulls back over those old builds, they're able to stay up there and people can't really look up at that point. So really well played from those guys, and I'm excited to see them in major finals. We often see CZB and Nathan dominating in these sort of sectors of the competition and these sort of group stages. So I want to see them now kick on and do that in Grants.
Yeah, great news for Nathan, CZB, and Axels. And also great news for us because Vico, Veno, and Flixie are back in the lobby. And hopefully we're going to see big things from them and the rest of our trios after the break.
Let's take a closer look at exactly how the pros are making the most of the mobility items this season. There are 3 main ways to get around the map, plus 1 bonus method that only a single player can use. Firstly, we have the Surf Cube. This item allows you to surf on a board made of cubes and even boost to go higher up and fly across the map. This item comes with 150 charges, and each surfing session allows you to use 50 of those before needing a 5-second cooldown. While this is a good option for early game or even as a last resort, high-level competitive players tend to choose other options since you're still exposed to getting shot at while using this item. This is why we won't see many players in FNCS using this item unless it's right off spawn or for a desperate last-ditch escape. A favorite amongst competitive players at all levels this season is the Mist form. It's found all over the map and transforms you into a flock of ravens. Each flight only lasts 4 seconds and has a 20-second cooldown, but the speed and distance you can cover in that window make it one of the best rotation tools in the game. What really sets it apart is that while you're flying, you can't take any damage, not from other players or even the storm, which is why in a heal-off situation we always see top pro players using the Mist form to avoid taking any storm damage while they look around for heals. It's also perfect for making sneaky high ground retakes in the late game. On top of that, many pro players are actually using this item defensively too, escaping box fights when things get chaotic, making this item not just about mobility, but key to survival at times. The final main mobility item that competitive players are using this season are the dashes that can be obtained by throwing down the dash sprite and entering the circle it creates. The great thing about these is that any player in the area gets 3 dashes, so your whole trio can load up with mobility at once. The dashes themselves work very similarly to the Underworld dashes from last chapter, except they will not give you fall damage immunity, so watch out for that. When it comes to box fighting, some of the elite players are using these dashes to get inside of boxes when they have the upper hand in a fight. When used well, these dashes can really be one of the most valuable assets to any team's inventory. Finally, we mentioned at the beginning of the video that there's a mobility item that only one player can use, and it's Core's Shrouded Striker Medallion, which can be obtained by eliminating Core on the Rift Island. This medallion allows the user to have increased stamina, jump further, faster and higher, partial invisibility, and fall damage immunity. We often see high fragging players like Peterbot and Marius taking this, as they use it so well in endgame to dip in and out of fights, finding eliminations as they do. Sometimes top players even combine this medallion with the dashes to get fall damage immunity from those too, making them a force to be reckoned with. Make sure to keep an eye out for these rotation strategies today in the Group 3 games. See you on the Battle Bus.
Welcome back to FNCS Major 3. It's Group 3 time. This is our final group of this major, so the pressure is truly on all of our trios who haven't yet scored themselves a Victory Royale ticket to the Major 3 finals. We've got 2 games left, and we have to talk about Mr. Savage because this is his new trio. He was with Reason last season. They picked up Chap, and so far, I think that they must be fairly satisfied with their performance. There's still a bit more to do, but they're doing it fairly well, Levin.
Yeah, the slower game this time around, right? Not as prolific as the first 2. They've had their struggles in the mid game leading up to it, but they did, give a fighting effort of it, right? In the end game mini. But again, a game to reset and come back stronger, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting because this is a sort of zone that you'd think would favor them better, right? More top left side of the map. So you'd think, yeah, this is going to be a better game from them. But ultimately, it was just a little bit of a mid-game problem. You can see them below on Surge right there, which just highlights to me that maybe they didn't really have that Storm Surge sorted out earlier on. Maybe a little bit of a spanner in the works for them in terms of their rotations. But they're still in and amongst that sort of top 5, right? So they are still capable and still in the range, but need to be a better game than the next one.
And let's talk about Akira, Karama and Werex. I don't think I thought that they were going to be so high on the consistency leaderboard. Their eliminations are ridiculous. They're leading in the lobby, it looks like, right now, Mini.
Yeah, they are, and they're just making these end games as well. Consistency personified so far, and I mean, this is exactly what we can expect from this trio as well. You mentioned it last game, Levin, at the end of it. These guys can just clutch up and find these moments of brilliance, even when they're a duo like in this game.
Yeah, I mean, the duo fighting again. Just both together, shotguns out, ready for anybody to get in their way. Just shots like that, again, just crucial to keep them ticking alive on the back of the zone. Composure. And it's what you want to see from a team like these guys who are fighting and want to try and get themselves to globals, right? They're going to have performances like this if they have any chance of doing it next weekend.
Been super impressive so far to see, and I am curious to know how they're going to fare against that Major 3 lobby because it's going to be pretty stacked. But do remember at home that a lot of the trios that we're predicting to take the Blade of Champions at Major 3 might have already qualified. Let's also talk about Vico, Venom and Flixie. I mentioned before the break, we needed to have a big game from these guys, and my word, they delivered. It was a shame that Storm Sickness got to Vico in the end, Mini.
Yeah, really unfortunate. But I mean, they had a much better mid game, much better early game as well this time. It seems like Storm Surge again has been a few issues for them today. This game, though, Levin, making it to end game, finding eliminations, playing like we would expect them to play. I think a lot more of the sort of Vico, Veno, Flixie trio that we're used to. Yeah, just really unfortunate circumstance at the end because, you know, 9 times out of 10, he probably wins that.
I think the thing I loved about this game is it was a big showcase of what makes this trio so great, in that they were in some situations where most teams in the lobby will just fall over and then go down and you're back to the lobby. These guys can fight their way out of tough spots in a way that most teams on Earth cannot, right? There's a couple of them in NA that we know, but over here on EU, these guys are probably the most potent ones where you get in trouble and they, you know, Veno will hit a big shot, Flixie will jump in box, or Vico will just be Vico, and they're able to stay alive in some of these games. And so hopefully now they just get the win, right? They came so close there, but a big game from them nonetheless.
The thing is, they need to sort out those early game surge issues and be consistent with that in order to actually make it to these end games. Levin, do you have any concerns?
Yeah, I mean, it's been the theme of them all year. It's felt like they've been battling and struggling between, do we play this style of play that optimizes for us in our ability to fight, or do we look to play a game that has less risk and mitigate that and something that maybe Veno's more familiar with as an IGL? I think that balance is always going to be something we're going to be talking about until the Global Championships.
Well, Pink, Nevs and Kiro certainly seem to have found the balance, Mini.
Yeah, really exciting stuff from them so far today.
Good.
They've been really consistent. I know going into last season's major finals, I had a few concerns about this trio. I was thinking, how well are they going to perform? They definitely over-exceeded my expectations. I think they could have placed 10th overall in that major. So really excited to see what they can do this major as well.
Well, we got 2 more games remaining, so let's head to game 4.
Thank you, Frankie. Look, I'm getting a little nervous, Taco, now. Vico, Veno, Flixie, they got a big match, but they're still not in qualifying range for that consistency leaderboard. They're at 99 points. The cutoff is currently 107 points, but after this game, it'll continue rising. So let's get right into it.
Maybe if it's a game 5 scenario and Veno, Vico, Flixie are still towing the line there with that consistency threshold on the leaderboard, maybe then I start to get a little bit worried. But it's Veno, Vico, and Flixie. They're going to figure it out. They already basically did it in the last lobby.
Yeah, I mean, you're right about that, but we know their confidence is going to cause them to just keep on fighting. It's what they know how to do best, and sometimes you can get a little unlucky in one of those fights, and all it's going to take is one more match without a lot of points, and it's going to put them on the edge for the last game of the day. Time will tell, though, as we look at Canyon once again contested.
Bit of a heartbreaker there, though, for Amy and Co. Probably pretty happy in the last lobby. Get a little bit of uncontested relief, but ABC, Marvick, Godoy, they've really just trying to find, they've been trying to find their foothold in this group since game 1, and nothing has really come to fruition just yet for this trio. Also looks like they're kind of just left to deal with scraps currently in what could be a very decisive Canyons Crossy outcome of that early contest.
Looking at what happened at Foxy Floodgate, though. Quick Elim off the start. In terms of this engagement, Split Karma and Sato have been victorious, and once again, continuing to hold on to that crown. I did see on the Elim feed as well, Podosai picked up eliminations. I wonder if they got contested at Demon's Domain, but we can see kind of how this off-spawn and outpost did end up. Just a better drop is all it really took.
All that off-spawn practice paying off dividends right now for Sato's team, and Slick especially has had a handful of moments really of just clutching out for that team's opening. Marvick, Godoy, and ZNN though still stuck hanging out overhead. Cammy, Ratty, Kev want to apply a little bit of pressure here. They don't want to leave Marvick alone on the high ground, just trying to be a little bit of a distraction factor here. But Rad not going to be able to fully collapse just yet. You definitely hear Godoy kind of making a little bit of a ruckus there though, but Hammy still looking to just close in from a separate approach. buildings are being fully gutted here at Canyon Crossing.
Yeah, trying to find any angle for one big shot. They're making sure to farm up. In the meantime, you can see there is at least one trio around them, but they're not going to walk on in yet. This fight honestly should end pretty quickly as soon as the first big shot gets exchanged. But so far, it's a waiting game.
But the time to elimination has been so heavily delayed with the way that ABC's trio is actually setting up at Canyon. They're not looking to immediately challenge, but they're just wasting so much time, and they're picking apart. There's not a whole lot of loot to split there between two trios, as is Takada. And so when things are even further delayed, you're really just extending an open invitation to get third party at that point. And teams like Fido, Cringe, they're just roaming around the map. Scary Sean even trying to see if they can set up a 3-2-1 opportunity here, which would be awful for Mr. Savage fans, especially given his position on the leaderboard.
I mean, it could be a lot worse. They've stayed in qualifying range throughout this whole day, basically, so...
Yeah, you don't want the gun out early.
Yeah, it would be a shame to go down now, and it looks like a 3-2-1 is going to come through. The shots connect. Not a single knock, though, has been made. Savage just has to hold on now, but with 3 players dashing right into you, it is incredibly difficult to do so. Even the loot that was left over on their surge base now is going to get taken. Chap is forced in a 3v1. This could quickly turn around for Savage and his trio.
This is exactly what you didn't want to see happen, but poor Chap, just nowhere left to run. Reason, the only survivor, no, he might be able to escape. It doesn't seem like he's actually caught the attention just yet from Scary Sean's team. I think he just bailed in a completely separate direction to Chap there to guarantee that at least one of them could live.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the good part of what kind of they were doing. They were setting up their surge base, had a player going around to get those extra shields, extra loot, and luckily it meant they weren't really together, but not being together caused Savage to get picked off, but at the same time, now it caused Reason to be able to kind of play it slow and get a reboot later on in the match, so hopefully it's going to be enough for them to maintain their spot on the leaderboard.
Well, we were mentioning the options, the opportunities for a third party in Canyon Crossing. Vexy, Pixovsky, Debule, Mythic, and be one of the first casualties there at the Canyon, but Veno, Vico, Flixie, this is where they thrive. Supernova Academy is bumping right now. They don't have any eliminations yet, but they are certainly trying to figure out if they can collect at least 1, 2, maybe even more. Vico, one thing's for sure, he's got to actually lock it down. He needs a chance to recuperate some of those shields. That is one issue with taking separate engagements at once. You have to trust, you have a lot of confidence in your teammates to tackle that, Takada, but you just don't want any kind of unintended outcomes, like another party rolling up to see if they can get a good flank maneuver in here. Pink, Nebs, and Kiro are up to some wicked work right now.
Yeah, and if any POI is going to have those third parties come through based on what we've seen in the previous matches, it's going to be Supernova Academy. Kind of glad that Vico, Veno, Flixie were aware that it's a bit of a risky fight to take, ended up disengaging, and in the meantime, Nebs, Kiro, and Pink looked for a quick 3-2-1, but their opponents were expecting it. So now it's just shots from afar.
But Venom, Flixie, and Vika, they've at least created enough space that they're going to be able to supervise if another team decides to jump into the fray here. But looks like for right now, they're going to peel off Vexy, Hammy, still, and Vexy like to believe that, yeah, he just gets clean elimination onto Hammy there. Not enough HP to really try and wiggle their way out. Just taking advantage of the opportunities presented.
Didn't. Moppy and Trex are the only ones on the island currently, but it seems like they do have kind of a back and forth potential here. Take some shots and do a bit of extra damage. perfect from the spur loot they've acquired now. I don't think anything too risky will come from this trio here, so we'll let them take their shots back and forth and head on over to Vico, Veno, Flixie once again, that do like getting up close and personal when it comes to finding that damage, and it seems like they might have just found a trio that seems to be separated from the rest of the lobby.
They've pretty much been trailing Gozia's team since back at Supernova Academy, and Vico looking to pick up where they last left off. The Superman sprites kind of connecting onto a handful of different walls there, but it's Vico. He does not care. He's just trying to jump into the box there from Gozia. Doesn't matter to him, even if it's a 2 versus 1. He trusts that he knows Veno, Flixie, they've got him covered. Does he tag though? That's going to slow him down for a moment. Veno's got to be real careful here. Gozia trying to wrap around his flank, but Gozia loses track of where Flixie is at. And sandwich between Flixie and Veno. That's going to be Flixie's first elimination in this one. And now Nexer just hold up. Lucky gonna dash out, try to see if he can go for some kind of madman shot here. But this trio is just falling apart by the seams. Vico eats another tag, but with Lucky going down, Vico's gonna be able to fully close out that final member elimination. And that's the 3-piece that Veno's team has been chasing after since the start of this game.
There's a difference against going against the trio that's used to taking these fights in the group stages, the major finals, versus trios that might, play aggressive in the playoffs in that first game, go for, some big elim matches. Hold on, pause that thought. The 3-2-1 from Akira. Kurama and Works is gonna pay off. Unfortunate for Zarb. Is gonna go down with 2 quick pumps. Now helping Kurama and Co maintain that consistency, as it looks like they're gonna try and close it out on Stormy right here, and is now left as a duo.
But Stormy Riot and Radion as a duo, it's going to be hard for them to cover their angle. Stormy Riot gets a good tag onto Kurama, but Kurama still has 2 other healthy members to depend on. That opening elimination, pulling the numbers into their favor. Radion doing what he can. Even if it's a delay, the delay could be enough for Akira's team to decide to pull back, but they know. They can smell it, they can taste it. Just 2 more eliminations waiting right in front of them. And then they have Utopia all to themselves. They're not even going to allow Stormy Riot and Radion to consider making that reboot attempt out of desperation. And Kurama nearly folded by Stormy Riot there, but still manages to hold fast, and now 3 eliminations in tow. Werix, Kurama, and Akira, their patience paid off.
That it did. Speaking about patience, Pink, Nebs, and Kuro have been playing very patient, haven't gone too hard. There was one match where I believe they had like 8 eliminations before the end game, but after that happened, they're like, all right, we've done our job. We're the top spot of the consistency leaderboard. We don't have to take any risks from this point on, and since then they've been consistently making it to the end game, and it looks like once again they don't want to force any fights, even if they might have the advantage. Mongrel's team though, starting with 3 eliminations, this maybe the best we've seen them so far set up throughout the day, and it's not even ideal. Still missing a lot of mats, and now with the pressure coming from Pink and his trio, it's going to be tough to make their way to zone.
I don't know, Takata. That material count looked kind of grim there for Mongrel's trio. I don't know if maybe Growl was holding on to a little bit more material count there, but they're going to have to spend time refarming mats as they continue to try and navigate the 4th lobby. Pixovsky, Dabule, Vexy. So many teams just willing to invest time tanking the early storm tick damage, the med-miss grenades and med kits, as well as the chug jugs. It just a big array of healing options that make it feasible for players to expend that little bit of additional time and play for those dead side positions.
Little storage ramp's gonna be made, but when your opponent's on the top of a mountain with a giant tower, you're gonna have to expend a lot of materials if you want to match that height.
It's okay, he can lose his shield and he won't have to worry.
That's true. Well, the back and forth will continue here. Showing a bit of surge meta of the previous seasons. Not too much to worry about so far.
Ooh.
Okay.
Definitely encountering some problems here for Tynox. Ratty and Hammy, they were just hoping to try and make a deep play for the reboot, but they just keep encountering one hurdle after the next. Both of these teams having the same mindset. You just want to play for the reboot, but getting trapped, staring each other down. If they don't fight directly here, Takada, it's just going to delay both of these teams' opportunities to ever play for that reboot in the first place. But it looks like Tynox has decided we're just not gonna try to make a play here. We'll shift elsewhere, hope for the best outcome.
Valid. As we go back to Sato split Karma. I'm liking this, okay. I like the amount of loot they have. A few eliminations on the board as well. I'm interested in Podosai though, close by as well. There's a trio that's not too close on the consistency leaderboard, so this match really matters a lot. Meanwhile, 116 points puts you in a comfortable enough position. Already in qualifying range. Just have to kind of hold on to that spot.
This feels so much like the calm before the storm, though. Because, especially with the way that the zone is just continuing to pull a little bit more towards that south appearance, or actually, excuse me, that northwest appearance. It's like, I could see things continuing to move a little bit further south here, Takada, but all of these teams kind of taking isolated positions. It's no surprise that we're witnessing other teams that have had their search strategies locked in now encounter some difficulties with that, because there are so many isolated surge bases across the map, and teams don't want to rotate through that. They're trying to take whatever natural coverage they can, but so many teams are just left chalked for these end games because they're having to spend so much material just getting to that position in the first place.
And you'll have trios like Trix, Loki, and Vox who are going to take advantage of those players rotating in late, just doing as many little small tags as possible. Cammy, Hari eye drop. Looking for a big game from this trio. We're pretty close to that top 10, but nowhere near comfortable.
Cammy definitely hasn't had as flashy of a day as Seti's performance yesterday. I know that's probably one of the last things on the back of his mind right now. It's all focus on just qualing in the first place of the Major 3 Grand Finals, but being underneath that search threshold is just going to make that journey all the more difficult for that team. They're trying to see if they can close in on some search tag opportunities, but Paul Atreides, Kia, and Hano, they're sitting pretty 845 above. The only thing that's really in their peripherals right now is just dealing with the team on Rift Island.
Yeah, this is a interesting zone because there's a lot of mountains, so it creates a lot of kind of elevated areas for trios to build bases. But not only that, in the middle of the elevated areas, you have Rift Island, which is the most elevated area you could possibly be on. So for the trios rotating in, it's going to be tough. A lot of vision onto them. It's going to make it that much more difficult to safely make it into zone. Vito get on the receiving end of that. 151 above, not enough to be fully safe.
It's just unfortunate for some of these teams on the lower areas of elevation, just constantly being reminded of where these search-based positions are at.
Oh.
Even way across the way. That's a great knock, but won't be able to convert it towards an elimination. Vito's not interested in getting any closer. Even with the HP advantage, they know that double revive at that distance, it's going to be finished off well before they make their way over.
A lot of big names in this rotate. Nems Pinkira resetting up on their dash sprite. Making sure no one's trailing behind them. Saw Vico Benoflixi close to them as well. Good little side of the mountain rotate. Making use of that environmental coverage. try and avoid getting shot, but it seems like they want to almost create a bit of a dead side here and not let people walk through easily.
Great minds think alike, so seeing Pink kind of trailing after Veno, no real surprise here, but Neo building for his life currently, and he's not going to be able to get away. The Storm Surge is the real threat now, and for Ratty's team, a big part of the reason why they were so adamant on chasing out these elims, because they knew we also need to stay above that surge damage threshold. The last thing you want to worry about is surge ticks when you're already having to deal with these shifts in elevation. And Cora experiencing some of that lobby focus. Cringe, Raku, Fido, they know this is a team in trouble. Just gonna mosey on over, tackle them, and just steamroll through their builds. Cringe, though, the visuals are so limited. He doesn't even get a chance to fight back. The rest of the lobby now spraying down on these builds. Shaco's doing everything he can to try and hold the walls around him, but Cringe lost both of his teammates in one swift movement.
Hey, but now he's 9 above the threshold. Mission accomplished. Good news for Cringe as they're leading the pack in terms of consistency, 192, but one more elimination couldn't hurt. Even if he goes down here, should be able to hold on, but it's gonna put that much more pressure onto their last match. Yeah, no more cooldown on the mist form. Cringe will go down to zone here. Like I was alluding to, they are in the top of that consistency leaderboard, but after this match, it's gonna be a lot closer, and they're gonna have to get a decent game. Vico, Veno, Flixi, on the other hand, need to have a good match here to put themselves in a comfortable spot, and I don't wanna speak too soon. A crack comes through, but no knocks as they continue on forwards.
That's still gonna force Veno, Vico, Flixi to recognize that they are not alone. They've got Cammy, iDrop, and Hari still overhead. And even further up, across the way, Debule, Pixovsky. So a lot of teams trying to see if they can maintain a position towards the lower edges of some of these mountain pools, but focusing back in onto the French trio and Podesai, X-Squeeze, Art Skill. What have they been able to convert? It looks as if the rest of the lobby has kind of respected the fact that this team has decided to infiltrate Demon's domain, go right back to where they had originally wanted to be in the first place, but even being uncontested at that drop, you still got to make something of it, and that's all that Podesai, X-Squeeze, and Art Skill are after.
Yeah, when they're out of the drop, they got 0 points in both matches, but right when they got to Demons in a single match, they were able to secure 48, and now once again, you can see they have a chance at it, but Akira also continuing to show why they're at the top of the pack.
Pink, Nebs, and Kiddo a little bit pincered right now. They're just looking to burn a little bit of material count, but pressure has been alleviated. Lobby has decided to look elsewhere. Nebs, Pink, and Kiddo, they've kind of scouted where they want to go next, but they want to make sure that no one is going to prevent them from pushing forward. It's largely just Fanai, Moneymaker, and Heidi. They might have to send some shots their way or see if they can get an opportunity to really wrap around them. Where Exakita and Karama kind of fought their way into their current position. But all about the misform movement currently. Daviel, Pixovsky, Vexy, they never even got a chance to look back. Flixi, Veno, and Vico.
Here they
come. They know that initial knock is the green light. They're ready to send it.
Those are gonna come through. Vexy still hasn't had time to pop any shields. Finish now is gonna grab them a Jug, as they heavily need that bit of extra shield, but you don't want to spend too much time in this fight. They're not in zone yet. They've secured the finish. No need to continue pursuing. Right now, the focus is on getting to zone. It is in an elevated part here, so a lot of these trios have to go up the tiny ridge, meaning you don't want to take too much time. Cammy, though, is going to be one of the trios up above. There's a lot of big names that need a massive match here. And Cammy, Hari, and iDrop are one of them. Podesai being another one as well, directly below them. Art Skill getting almost cracked.
And Cammy just trying to keep tabs, making sure that if they do get chopped, that they'll be able to utilize those dashes. A few charges still left in that dash sprite even, but PotisEye, X-Squeeze, Art Skill, they might have to deal with Cammy's trio. Cammy kind of recognized the fact they can't hold height. They have that team kind of lurking underneath them, but in the low ground, Nebs, Pink, Keto, forced to fight their way through now. They've got Surge working against them, and they can't outstand it. They don't want to have to try and blast it, but it's not going to make a difference here. Keto, their primary fragger, has been knocked. The double revive and one below Surge. They need a single shot to Kata, but they're having to spend so much time just healing. They're missing the opportunity to get that tag in.
Yeah, they had to go for the double res and the heal. Cammy, iDrop, Hari once again looking to see if they can claim height. They tried it in the first game. It got overthrown, but they have a shot at it once again, and this time around, a lot of materials. If the zone's able to pull back, could be a blessing for this trio, as now they're focused on just applying that pressure to the trios that are second.
iDrop with that misform can always drop. He's got the dashes too, so he won't take any fall damage, but Flixie, Veno, Vico, all the way in the lowest layer playing towards that front side, just trying to push other teams back. Artis under so much heavy fire, doing everything in his power to try and hold these walls, but Pink, Keto, Nebs immediately catapulting themselves towards the front side. Keto one more time, though, gonna pay the ultimate price here. He's been knocked only this time. Pink and Nebs, they don't have the chance to try and play for that double revive. They've got to keep things moving. They know there's too many teams getting pulled into the congestion in this low ground. Veno, Vico, Flixie waiting for their openings, but iDrop, Cammy, Hadi, they are refusing to let up any pressure. They're gonna force these teams to the low ground to keep expending these misforms just to get to the front side.
Ooh, elevated themselves up. They might be starting to look up above. They know high ground team might be running low on materials here. It really depends where this second to last zone pulls. Will it go back? Will it continue far? As Hari, Kami, iDrop now, pressure's onto them as people are trying to drop them down. It's Vico, Veno, Flixie taking shots. They want to take a shot at high ground.
PotisEye, Art Skill, also kind of tangled up in this mess that's developing underneath, but Vico, he's actually overthrown height. Veno has been dropped behind, though. Didn't actually get the chance to reunite. So Vico, he'll fall back. He wants to go pick up the loot from Veno at the very least, but now high ground completely thrown into disarray. And Prism, Kyrie, they're going to be some of the first to jump right back to it. They don't even recognize the fact that Vico's all the way inside the storm, just trying to play the med kits, buying himself a little bit of time. He even has an opportunity to still look for shots onto Kyrie and Prism. Do they even know what's about to flank them? But Vico, he could care less. It's actually going to be a front side, another layer transition. He knows he's too separated from Flixie. He can't actually make that challenge for height. Art Skill, Moneymaker, Tidy, all getting chopped out, dropped underneath, and Moneymaker, it's going to be the first one to fall from his team, but Tidy, F9, if they can get a refresh, they might still be able to make something happen here, but F9, he only has a sliver of HP. PotisEye chasing him down.
The back-to-back drop. Tidy now only forced with one material left, doing what he can to stay up. But it looks like the French trio, they've overthrown it. They needed a big match. They were in the lower half of the leaderboard going in. Everything on the line in the second to last match alongside Flixie and Vico, who are doing what they can to clutch it up as a duo.
But PotisEye, he doesn't have a whole lot of material left over. He's got to hope that the low ground starts to clear itself out. Artis still duking it out underneath. Flixie will finally fall. That's the end of Veno's team here. PotisEye, X-Squeeze, they have the chance to close this one out for France. Guaranteed their spots for the Big 3 Grand Finals. X-Squeeze delivers. Werix has fallen. Meme has the opportunity now. Gentle Mates, another team getting sent forward. But PotisEye taken down. Artis, he's ready to play spoiler. X-Squeeze can't hold on. It's 1 versus 3. And Ivan, Ifrozi, Levin called it at the start of this show. Surprises have happened here to Kata, and they bring it home at the end.
I know Levin's got a big smile on his face. He said, I told you they have what it takes. And in game 4, they closed it out, playing it patiently from the low ground. You can see the connections coming through from Ivan, Elim after Elim, putting the pressure on height, making sure his team is looking extra healthy for those final moments. And with the last shot getting connected, they're able to close out the match and put themselves into the major finals. Look, I need to stop speaking because I want to hear what Levin has to say about his trio qualifying.
So, Levin, you were saying the top 5 playing without pressure trios included a trio that qualified, I think, in 93rd place, and that trio just happened to get a victory royale. Talk to us about how you're feeling right now.
I can say a lot right now. I love how Takara called them my team as well. He's like, yeah, 11's team, like I'm coaching them or something. No, it's not like that. Look, the reality is, you know, when you've been watching Fortnite as long as I have, the eyes don't lie. Do you know what I'm saying? This team passed the eye test. When I've watched them, they've played really good Fortnite, and they've done it as well in previous group stages this year. It's not like they're a team from out of nowhere completely. They've had experience in lobbies like this. You know, to close out the win in that way was very clinical of them. And some pop-up players as well. Being a limbs, it's not like they just walked through and they were playing, you know, low ground, hiding in the lobby, and they bided their time. Nah, they took the game by storm there, Mini.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the chaos up on high ground actually really helped them out because, of course, so many players up there were really trying to go for it. It was a bit of a mess up there for a lot of time, and I think a lot of those players were then dropping on down to the low ground, in which case these guys are like, yeah, come on down, we'll have all that loot, and they just played it so well, again, sticking together so well, using that experience in these sort of lobbies to their advantage as well, and I think it's just really well played from these guys when it comes to their fragging ability. You mentioned it at the beginning of the show, Levin, expecting big things, and here they are doing it.
Love to see it.
We're going to head to a short break. As you can tell, I'm back. I will not be interrupting my analysts.
Can't lose if I'm the go. Leave me in the zone, I take your mind and then I snatch your soul. Turn up the track, going deep, I'm in the zone. You know I'm about to go, harder than hard to go. When the lights shine bright, that's my show. Burn up and see the glow, I'm gonna make it known. I get it, they love my whole steady. They got so listen, told you this ain't hypothetical. Answer the call, prove this once and for all. Can't reach me with an arrow, summer nights I never fall. No cattle, the goat don't wear a saddle. Go riders off my body, cut them off, they yak and sloppy. Already, I consume the petty. The vision's 2020, believe your eyes winning.
Welcome back to FNCX Europe. We have got just one more game left of Group 3. There's going to be some trios already preparing for the last chance qualifier, but every single trio still has the chance to qualify if they manage to get a victory royale in this final game. However, we have to talk about the trios where they currently stand in terms of consistency. Vico, Flixie and Veno, they had a poor start to the lobby. However, they're starting to pick up momentum, Levin.
Yeah, they're picking things up. That game was a bit of a cleaner one in terms of, you know, they weren't as frag heavy towards the end game there. But I felt like they had a bit more control. They had a bit more of a sense of direction, Minnie.
Yeah, they did. It was a lot better from these guys. It's exactly what we would expect to see from these guys in terms of the way that they're playing. I really like the way that they tried to go for height as well. That was sort of later on. They tried to do that sort of retake that they do so well, getting to that front side, spraying out height, and then making their way up. I think it was Veno that went down inside of the storm, and then Vico tried to help him out, try to get some of the loot off of Veno's body. Didn't quite work out for them. That sort of sent them into a little bit of a frenzy, but some of the best teams like these guys can pick up the pieces in those situations. And when you have players like Flixie and Veno and Vico, I should say, that are just able to duo clutch like that, you know you're going to be down for a good game.
If we take a look at the standings as well, we can see that, I mean, as well as this lobby being incredibly competitive, I guess that's what you'd expect. You might not expect Akira, Karama and Werix to be right at...
I mean, it's consistency, but it's also fragging. Look at that, 35 points for those, 35 eliminations, I should say, for these guys right now. Absolutely incredible. They're getting a lot of them in these sort of end game stages as well, Evan. They're getting to these positions really well, and of course, making the most of it when they get there. I think this could be the best French team that's on the region right now.
No, this has truly been a masterclass in endgame fragging from these guys. Mechanically, all of them are just feeling it, right? All of them have had their moments. Akira in this game was the one that was popping off. In the other game, it was Werix, who claims he has no aim in his name, who was absolutely out-aiming everyone he was dueling. So all of these guys can do it. They can all step up. Kurama especially as well. Let me shout him out. I'm loving what I'm seeing from these guys right now.
Yeah, Werix is just conditioning his opponents. Let's talk about our other French trio then. Podesai, X-Squeeze and Artskill. Now, they got given Demon's Domain for free after Queasy's Victory Royale in game number 2, but have they been capitalizing on it, Levin?
This had to be the game. This really did. They're primed up on height. Yes, they're a duo. But, you know, they survive, right? They survive some of the more difficult parts. Like when Rex is coming up, if he hits a couple big shots and maybe a game's done there, it's these final closing moments against Ivan's trio below. That 4 damage from Podesai honestly could be the difference maker. Maybe he's able to stay alive there, take down Ifrozy, and then you have a 2v1 against Artist right above, and then you might, you know, you give yourself a chance, you give yourself a fighting chance. Small margins are the difference makers here. They're just on the outside, Mini. But if they don't make it now, they'll be looking back at that game as, wow, we really had our chance there.
Yeah, misplay. I think he was stuck inside of 2 mines there. Do I go back into the zone, try and help out Frag? Do I try and go back into the storm and then heal off with this Chug Jug, maybe find some extra heals? Don't think Podesai was quite too aware as to what he was thinking about doing right there, but they're putting themselves in a good position. 12th place, they can still clutch up and get into the control.
Sorry, man, this group is too stacked, bro. Look at the page right now. Look at the amount of names who might not make it. I'm looking straight at 14. I drop Hari and Cammy right now on the outside of the consistency places. A good game will do it for them here. But that is a load of pressure on this game, right? Pressure that I'm sure they can handle. But this is a team they've not been anonymous today. Like, they've had really good games. We've seen them up on high. We've seen them in situations primed to win games. And the possibility of these guys not even making it through to the major finals after this next game would be catastrophic. This would be a huge upset.
Well, I thought this was going to be the game for them. They set up really well. They did exactly what Cammy's known for, being in a good position, now playing high as well. Just lacking those eliminations we saw right there. I think they had 2 for the team. They weren't ever going to be able to have the materials to stay up there. So they need to turn it on now for this last game because it's now on ever.
Well, when we saw the lobby list for Group 3, we all knew that heartbreak was going to be inevitable. There's going to be tears for some of these trios. Some of them tears of joy because they will have qualified for the Major 3 finals after this game. Take it away, Taco and Takata.
Look, I know everybody can't be winners here today, Takada, but it is brutal what might take place after this final lobby. Everything is essentially on the line because, again, nobody wants to try and stake their bets through the last chance qualifier.
I'm scared, and I'm not even playing. I'm just watching the games, and I'm feeling the pressure from spectating these matches. Levin was pointing it out, but the amount of names on that second page not yet in qualifying range, it's looking like a finals already, and this is just the third group. One match is all that's left before we see our final trios that are going to qualify to the major finals. The only thing left after this final group stage is that last chance qualifier where 3 trios make it through, but we don't have to wait any longer. Let's kick off the last game of the
day. And even when we step away from that consistency metric for the leaderboard, there's one spot left up for grabs in winning this final match here, Takada. And in Game 5, I truly believe we are about to witness some real maniacs on display. Because some of these teams, they know I don't have a singular chance. I've been losing every single one of these 50-50s off spawns. I only have the win as my win con. And Karma, Sato, Split, for the first time ever, uncontested at Outpost. The message has been established. This is our turf.
I mean, it's a good time to be uncontested. Sato and his trio are literally the cutoff. They're in 10th place right now, so they do need to have a decent match here, and now the safety of being uncontested is going to give them a little bit of time to relax, but a drop spot that has been contested basically every single match throughout the day except for one is Canyon Crossing.
Could be some serious trouble on the horizon here for Hammy, Kev, and Ratty. They've largely been getting the better end of this exchange, but any delay is still a delay. Pump Power also shifting a bit here. Keto having already been knocked. Mongrel and Hijo are going to have to hit the road here. This is their last chance, and they basically need a win to pull through, Takada.
Seeing them win in the last match would be hype, but they've got a long ways to go, and the way it's looking right now, no more builds. 14 shots total for Mongrel with a full trio that has shield pushing you. I'd give them a 10% chance here to come out on top.
You almost want to close your eyes. You kind of just don't want to watch it happen. Not again. Mongrel missing out on the Major 3 Grand Finals, but that's just the level of competition that we're dealing with. Mongrel has been knocked. Hijo, just a sliver of HP, trying to keep the dream alive. Literally 1 HP and a dream. And some footwork, apparently. Shixie gonna go right by. Hijo, this is the ultimate game of hide and go seek. His life is quite literally on the line. Almost takes out Glove for it, but the damage has been done. We are not going to be seeing Mongrel and his team in the Major 3 Grand Finals. A heartbreaking outcome for right now, Takada, because they're still the last chance qualifier.
Still possible, but a lot more difficult now. Big draw. Looking at Lone Wolf. AD in here trying to figure out what's the play. Another 1 versus 3.
Hasn't really had a whole lot of overview at the starting point. We've just been seeing so many off-spawn contests from various positions on the map. Can't watch them all break down, but Scary Sean, Voldy, and Ford, this team has been very proactive in the early game, Takada. I mean, we've witnessed them find at least 1 or 2 teams, it seems like, to really just catch off guard, get those eliminations, but it might be on the receiving end for once. Kian continues kind of sneaking up here onto Scary Sean, also making sure to look back. Thought that he heard Scary's teammates. Scary, he doesn't seem like he's even aware of the fact that this solo is still looking for that opportunity to strike. Might even just be looking to wait things out. Kian knows I can maybe just look to play for a reboot, but took matters into his own hands. He just wants to go down fighting. And his wish might be Forge's command. As Forge will take that last elimination there. Now a solid 3. And Scary's gonna continue to span out there at Lone Wolf.
Benno taking the 1v1 that's soon gonna turn into a 3v1 here. The knock comes through. Now, Vico, Venno, Flixie are in 9th, so technically qualifying range, but nowhere to be fully comfortable. It is top 10 that makes it through. We have names like Mr. Savage's trio in 11th, Podesai's trio in 12th, Cammy's in 14th, all outside of qualifying range. Now with only this last match to make something happen. It was devastating what happened to Savage in the last game, but we're going to look at Fido, who was leading the pack to consistency just a moment ago, but now needing to secure their spot. These eliminations could do it.
These fights on the outskirts of the map, Raku, Fido, Cringe, they're hoping that they can come together, and the starting point could be finding some early eliminations. They clearly need more than that. Not a lot of builds. This fight has been drawn out for quite some time now. And Cringe kind of just recognizing this is no longer worth, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. Let's just disengage. Gozia, Nazer, Lucky. They could still choose to just follow, but both of those teams kind of letting that engagement fizzle out.
Here we go, Mr. Savage chat reason from getting 3-2-1 to now doing the 3-2-1. Unfortunately, Kyrie wasn't able to get knocked, so now they are just going to close the gap a little further, pick up that dash sprite. And will they continue on forwards? It looks like they just might.
Kyrie's already had the chance, though, to reconvene with Casper and Prism. And Casper, Prism, they're just going to give their trio mate a chance to regulate his HP, heal up a bit. Reason spots out Prism by himself. He's going to close in onto the solo. But Reason, even with the shield crack, has to reload. Chap trying to help him follow up. Chap just looking to break through the builds. Trying to open up an angle there for Reason to take advantage of. And there's still Savage working his way around. Very easy to lose sight where some of Chap's teammates are actually making their way towards. Chap still building overhead. Casper a little bit trapped now, but Casper, Kyrie, Prism, they're doing a great job. Whenever one is holding one angle, the other immediately shifts to the next, but they slip up for a moment, and that's going to be enough damage done. Chap just trying to get into the box now. Going to force a Menace grenade, and that's going to be a slight pullback here. Chap now looking to shift his focus back onto Prism. Casper, Kyrie, still just tangling with Reason and Mr. Savage overhead. But